Welcome back to BBC World News America. If it's Friday, it must be France. World leaders are dashing through Europe. Today they flew from the G20 meeting in London to the Nato meeting in Strasbourg. En route, they switched focus from the global economic crisis to the war in Afghanistan. President Obama rolled out his strategy for bringing stability to the country just a week ago, and now he wants other countries in the alliance to back his plan. The BBC's Mark Mardell reports from France on the president's reception so far.
Off Air Force One into the heart of Europe. A president with a mission to win hearts and minds. The hearts, at least, are open. Coming together is possible. Mr. President, meet the President. Their glamorous wives greeting each other like long-lost friends. This you wouldn't have seen a year ago. A French crowd waving the stars and stripes, eager to shake the hand of the American president.
Hello. 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 Good to see you.
He praised France's contribution to Afghanistan, called France America's oldest and first ally. But this trip is all about contributing fighting troops, not pretty tunes.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States and First Lady, Michelle Obama.
Then a slice of American politics, a town hall meeting where he wooed the crowd, stressing he'd made big changes over Iraq, over Guantanamo, but some things he couldn't change.
Al-Qaeda is still a threat, and that we cannot pretend somehow that because Barack Hussein Obama got elected as president, suddenly everything's going to be okay.
Pacing the stage, he warned Europe, Afghanistan is your war too.
Europe should not simply expect the United States to shoulder that burden alone. We should not, because this is a joint problem, and it requires joint effort.
The contrast is stark. The United States has 37,000 troops in Afghanistan. The UK has 8,300. Germany, France and Canada less than 4,000. The casualty rate too tells a story. 658 American service people have died. Britain has lost 152. Germany and France under 30. But for Germany, history weighs heavy. Voters are deeply troubled by the idea of sending soldiers to kill and die.
Bundesrepublik Deutschland einen Beitrag zu leisten zur Lösung der Probleme in Afghanistan.
Their leader rather dutifully promised the president they would do their bit. French troops on patrol in Afghanistan, but now there's a new threat to Europe doing more, a planned law restricting women's rights. The NATO Secretary-General told me it didn't square with the sacrifice.
Our boys and girls are dying there in the defense of universal values. And you see a law almost coming into effect, not yet, there's still a possibility not to sign, which fundamentally violates women's rights and general human rights.
There have been protests here, tear gas fired. Some will take a lot of persuading that Europe should be at war at all.
Mark Mardell reporting from France there. Well, the president's request for more NATO troops for Afghanistan wasn't made any easier by comments from the head of that military alliance today. As you just heard in that piece, NATO's Secretary-General suggested that members would be reluctant to commit extra forces if Afghanistan goes ahead with adopting a controversial new law that would make rape legal within marriage. The BBC's Ian Panel reports, and I should warn you that it contains some pictures that you may find disturbing.
This is a profoundly conservative country, where a woman's life is often bound by tradition and religion. The overthrow of the Taliban 7 years ago was meant to end oppression, but new legislation threatens to turn the clock back. The new family law sets out the responsibility of wives, including sexual satisfaction of her husband at least once every 4 nights. Critics say it legalizes rape in marriage. It also says she shouldn't leave the home without permission, except in emergencies.
Friday prayers in Kabul. These men are from the Shia minority. The new law applies to them and their wives. And this is Ali Akbar Qasimi, one of the MPs who drafted the legislation. It's good for women if they have to get permission from their husbands, he says. It's part of Islam, and nothing else can be done.
How are you finding it out here?
Last year, Gordon Brown again affirmed that this war was about democracy and defending human rights, as well as defeating Al-Qaeda. But President Karzai has just signed this new law in a rather crude attempt to win votes ahead of a presidential election. Despite initial gains, women's rights and even women themselves are increasingly under attack.
This was the scene late last year. Girls attacked with acid for daring to go to school. The year before, 2 deaths at another school, part of a rise in attacks against women and girls. Fawzia Kufi is an outspoken MP fighting against this new law.
They have suffered from unemployment, from all this violence against them, and now with regularizing violence, giving a legal authority to the violence, it makes life of woman like a prison.
This new law has sparked criticism here and abroad. There's pressure to reverse it, not least because it's an embarrassment to Britain and others, who are sending more troops to defend a democratic process that's under severe scrutiny. Ian Pannell, BBC News, Kabul.
Just across the Afghan border in Pakistan, fighting between the Taliban and government forces has created a wave of refugees. More than 500,000 people have already been displaced, and Pakistan's government is struggling to care for them and expects that the number of displaced people will increase. Our correspondent Barbara Plett has visited a camp in the northwest frontier near Peshawar, and she sent us this report.
Makeshift classrooms in a temporary home. For these girls, a refuge from conflict. Their schools have been targeted by militants and used as bases by the army. This is the other side of Pakistan's war against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. More than 500,000 people displaced, and many have nothing left to go back to. Thousands of homes have been destroyed by army operations in the tribal belt near the Afghan border. The military says it has won back territory from the militants, but at a huge cost to civilians. Zamanur Rahman has squeezed his family into a few tents, dozens of children and grandchildren. One died during the flight. His home has been flattened. Camp life is hard, but he's not moving unless he gets government help. After all we've suffered, we should be compensated, he says, so we can go and rebuild our houses. The army may have pushed back the Taliban in parts of the border region, but with so many people displaced, the fighting has created a new problem, one that could sow the seeds of further instability. People are angry with the army and confused. They tell me they don't understand a war that punishes civilians. And they may be joined by more refugees. Barack Obama has declared Pakistan's border region the most dangerous place on earth. Conflict there may increase, including more American missile strikes.
There will be more people, the displaced people, coming here to this region. So it is a concern for us that when these people, if more displaced people come here, and if they are not going back, then it will be a very big problem.
It's already a big problem. Recent clashes at another camp left one person dead. Obama calls Islamist militancy a cancer that's destroying Pakistan from within. But for the tribes people, the cure seems as deadly as the disease. Barbara Plett, BBC News, Peshawar.